It's my great pleasure to invite a local hero here from Scotland to the stage. As you know, it's an old tradition of the KCA to have a local host, and this person usually gives a little bit of an introduction to their country. We all know Scotland for sure, but what we don't know is Scotland and kidney cancer, and I'm really excited that my dear friend, Rob Jones, is gonna invite us into his country and the specifics of kidney cancer therapy here. And on behalf of the Kidney Cancer Association, I have a little keynote speaker acknowledgement prize for you. Thank you, and we're really happy to be here.
So Michael's already answered my first question, which was, why me? It's simply because I'm the oldest person currently treating kidney cancer in Scotland, which is testament to the extreme youth of my wonderful colleagues in this country. Yeah, so I'm Rob Jones. I'm a genitourinary medical oncologist. Welcome to Edinburgh. Welcome to Scotland. We've had the weather switched off for the duration of your stay. That's not quite the same thing as turning the heating on, but welcome. So I'm based over in Glasgow, which is a 51-minute train ride to the west of here, and this is the University of Glasgow, where I'm employed. Oops. These are my disclosures, none of which are really relevant, I hope. So I'm going to talk, yes, a bit about Scotland, a little bit about kidney cancer. It's kind of difficult to see where the overlap is in those two areas, to be honest. But of course, Scotland is well known for its outstanding scenic beauty. You may detect that despite being in this country for 34 years now, I have not developed a Scottish accent. So these are just some shots of some of the beautiful scenery, mainly from actually the northwest of the country. The photo on the top right there I took just exactly a week ago today, in fact, looking down the Sound of Raasay, and that's the beautiful island of Skye as viewed from the mainland. We've had some spectacular sightings of the Aurora Borealis this year from the north. The main problem, the main barrier to that is that there have to be no clouds, and there are very few non-cloudy nights, even in the north of Scotland. It's also famous for its wildlife, some of which is more edible than others. And of course, its outstanding built environment as well. We're just yards from the beginning of the Edinburgh New Town, famous for its beautiful Georgian architecture. Please, if you get the opportunity, go and take a walk there. But of course, we're also famous for our more Hogwartian institutions. The bottom right is my daughter's school. And of course, maybe more historically, we have a wealth of beautiful castles. There's a fabulous example less than a kilometre from here. And of course, some really ancient history. In the middle on the right there is Skara Brae up in Orkney. That's a 5,000-year-old village which was preserved in the sand dunes. Imagine walking down that morning after a storm and finding that on your doorstep, which is what happened. We have wonderful food, wonderful natural resources, some of them less natural than others. That thing in the top right there isn't a particularly necrotic tumour specimen. It's actually a haggis. And actually, haggis is actually truly delicious. So if you get an opportunity to taste haggis, I wouldn't recommend taking one home with you. It's better savoured in its natural environment. But if you get the opportunity to taste haggis, I hope you enjoy it. But of course, Scotland is its people, and the people of Scotland are wonderful people, and I hope they make you very welcome here. If they don't, please get on that train to Glasgow, because the people of Glasgow are what keep me in Scotland. And they're very funny people. We are very funny people, I hope. This is another classic site in Scotland, the Duke of Wellington there with his famous hat on. And of course, there are some very famous people who have made their living out of Glaswegian humour. But it's also spawned some of the greatest discoverers in the world in the field of science, and including medical science. Bottom right there is John Logie Baird, who's just set up and demonstrating the world's first ever television. I imagine he was pretty frustrated because he did all of that, put it together, and then found there was nothing on. James Watt, who really made the steam engine drive the Industrial Revolution. On the bottom right is Alexander Fleming, of course, discoverer of penicillin. And in the bottom left, rather, and the top left is somebody you may not know, but this is the man who arguably really first demonstrated systemic anti-cancer therapy. This is George Beatson. I work at the Beatson West of Scotland Cancer Centre. We have the world-famous Beatson Institute for Cancer Research. And Beatson, he discovered over 100 years ago that if you did bilateral oophorectomies on premenopausal women with advanced breast cancer, you would get tumor response rates, which of course has led to some of the most successful, certainly some of the earliest successes in systemic endocrine therapy in breast cancer. Let's talk a little bit more about the nation and the health of the nation. So Scotland has a population of about 5.5 million people. It's just under 10% of the population of the United Kingdom. Of course, the United Kingdom consisting of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. We are different. 62% of Scots voted to stay in the EU. And that has spawned a lot of frustration. We are not particularly ethnically diverse. 96% of the Scottish population in the most recent census were white of one description or another. But we do have a particularly poor cancer record. This is a heat map of the United Kingdom showing the prevalence of all cancers, and you can see that Scotland is the epicenter for cancer statistics. There's a bit of cheating going on with the scale bar on that heat map, I appreciate. But it is we are a particularly unhealthy country in many diseases, but including cancer. And even if you look at the outcomes there, again, we underperform in terms of 10-year survival compared with the rest of the UK. And we're down there now in the bottom quartile in Europe. Why is this? Well, there's a lot of environmental factors. Asbestos, we are I think, the global epicenter of the asbestos-related disease at the moment, and that's largely due to the shipbuilding industrial heritage of Clydeside, Glasgow. We still have a very unhealthy relationship with tobacco and alcohol. And of course, the current and next wave of the cancer epidemics being driven by poor appetite and obesity. And of course, nearly all of these in some way relate to very high levels of historic and sadly ongoing socioeconomic deprivation in Scotland compared with other parts of the UK and Europe. So now kidney cancer. So actually kidney cancer, we're fairly average when it comes to kidney cancer, which I guess, given the league tables I've shown you so far, has to be a good thing. These are the figures for the UK, age standardized deaths for the UK, and you can see the UK is very average there, being yellow. If you try and look at slightly different data, looking at the same thing between the member nations, yes, Scotland is just edging ahead of the rest of the UK there. But there are about 1,100 new cases a year, population 5.5 million, and about 400 deaths a year from renal cancer in Scotland. Healthcare in Scotland is devolved. So as you will be very much aware, I hope, we are not an independent nation. But from the point of view of healthcare, essentially Scotland is independent of the rest of the UK. We fund, organise and deliver our own healthcare, but the principles are the same. It's universal health care, and it's comprehensive and it's free at the point of care. one slight differences in Scotland, again, largely due to the socioeconomic factors, nearly 100% of healthcare, certainly nearly 100% of oncology care is delivered by the NHS. There's a very small private sector. Treatment access decisions are made at a national level within Scotland, so again, we have different access decisions from England and the rest of the UK, and that's focusing mainly around drugs, of course. And this is the list of current first-line therapies available in kidney cancer in Scotland within the NHS. There's one licensed first-line therapy missing from there. I'll leave you all to work out which one it is. But I think you'll all agree that we have access to all the modern therapies all the modern licensed therapies, at least, that we'd like to have access to, including adjuvant pembrolizumab. And healthcare and oncology care is delivered in a very regionalised fashion. So there are 5 cancer centres. So there's only 5 oncology hospitals, oncology centres in the whole of the country. And in Scotland, all oncologists work within one of those centres. Although many of my colleagues travel out and offer essentially a travelling consultative service to other hospitals within their regions. So the Beatson Cancer Centre, where I work, for example, our catchment area is actually half the population of Scotland, so just over 2.5 million people. And a little bit about how we organise the kidney cancer kidney cancer service in Glasgow. So this is the oncology clinic. There are 3 medical oncologists, 1 radiation oncologist. We also have a very well-developed use of other skill sets in the clinic. In particular, we have quite a highly developed role for the prescribing clinical nurse specialist and also the prescribing pharmacist. And many of our patients, their treatment-related consultations will be delivered by a pharmacist or a clinical nurse specialist. This brings huge added benefits to our patients and to ourselves as we bring different angles on essentially patients with the same problems. And of course, we work within a much wider multidisciplinary team, which is regionalised. So again, this covers the whole of this half population of Scotland. We have urologists, radiologists, pathologists, and neurology nurse specialists representing all the hospitals within that region. And this also provides an opportunity for every single case to be discussed in a multidisciplinary team, but also to collate and collect data on all newly diagnosed cases. So I'm going to draw to a close. This, I hope, has been, compared with the previous fascinating sessions, a little bit of, if you like, light entertainment. But I hope you enjoy your visit to Edinburgh. It is a very beautiful city. As I say, if you're feel unwelcome, pop on that train, come over and see me and Barlow, and I think there's 1 or 2 of my other colleagues from Glasgow. Do come and see us. And if you get a chance for a more extended visit, do come and see Scotland and maybe get out into some of those wilder and beautiful scenic areas. Thank you very much.